When Iskandar says the children seem to feel the same wound he does, the line immediately connects not only to Haldun's death, but also to the orphanage theme. So the most logical thing to expect next is that his next big choice will hit the orphanage line, not the power line. The words about being able to run from people but not from yourself do not sound like philosophy here. They sound like a diagnosis of his state. After a pause like that, the next episode will most likely not let him hide for long, because the past is already catching up with him, even in silence. Here they say out loud that after all these losses, he needs to stay alone just to pull himself together. But because of that retreat, it makes more sense to expect not peace next time, but new pressure that drags him back before he has time to recover. Aisha immediately looks for her brother through Gonul, because after the funeral, she already feels that something is wrong with him. With that in mind, the next episode could easily turn Gonul from simple support into the person the family uses to reach him. When it turns out Iskandar never even came home and locked himself away in the village house again, the family's worry stops being background noise. After this talk, it makes sense to expect that his disappearances will start hurting not only him, but also Cennet and Aisha. The reporters come straight to the door, asking whether he will take over as mafia boss after Haldun and Rasat are gone. That means in the next episode, every move he makes will be read through a power struggle, even if he himself is choosing something else entirely. Cennet nervously denies both the mafia and the inheritance, because she simply is not being told anything. That is exactly why the truth will most likely hit her suddenly and painfully next episode, not through Iskandar's confession, but through another blow from the outside. The chief warns Arif that after the operation, dark people have noticed him and his enemies will grow. That is a direct setup for the next episode. Arif will likely have to protect not only himself, but also the people who are easiest to use against him and Iskandar. Haldun's men are already talking like subordinates, and demanding a new head because this kind of world does not tolerate an empty seat. So in the next episode, the pressure on Iskandar will likely come not from one enemy, but from an entire power vacuum that someone must fill. Gonul refuses to accept his usual way of disappearing and reminds him that he is no longer alone. After a talk like that, it makes sense to expect that she will not stay on the sidelines next episode and will step into the most dangerous part of the story, even if he tries to push her away. Here Gonul says his biggest fear out loud, losing his mother and Aisha. Once the fear is stated that clearly, the next move almost writes itself. The next blow at Iskandar will most likely come not head-on, but through the people he is afraid he cannot protect. When he says he feels calm and safe around Gonul, their line stops being light background. So if he keeps hiding the truth or walking away in silence next episode, it will no longer just affect him. It will hit her personally and could sharply change their tone. Iskandar does not even come out to the men arriving to swear loyalty, and sarcastically tells them to kiss his uncle's hand instead. That is not just refusing a visit, it is refusing the role itself. And next episode, he will most likely have to pay a price for that refusal. Zarif quickly redirects the reporters into the story about Camille's twin, and in doing so makes the confusion around Iskandar even bigger. After an improvisation like that, it makes sense to expect that this lie will come back next episode as a new question or a dangerous lead. Gonul calmly stays the night in the village house and does not turn it into some dramatic gesture. That detail hints that next she will go even deeper into his closed world and see what he is still hiding from both family and friends. Here Iskandar openly admits that after Camille and Alim Baba, he is afraid of who will be next. Once the fear is named that precisely, the next episode will most likely strike that exact list, not some abstract theme of strength or grief. Gonul even gives his condition a medical name and turns the problem from bravado into trauma. So what matters next is not heroic posturing, but whether he chooses support from the people close to him, or snaps back into a rough, violent response under new pressure. The fathers are no longer talking about childish mischief, but about filthy work children are being pulled into, and they even call it a mafia scheme. That means the next conflict for Iskandar will almost certainly move toward the children, not toward status. And if you are also tracking where this is going, drop a like and subscribe. Sorry Uncle is sure he knows how to pull Iskandar out of isolation and immediately moves to act. That hints that next episode his circle will keep yanking at him emotionally, not allowing him to choose the moment of his own decision. The friends openly admit they staged this whole performance, only because they could not reach him, and the trouble was already serious. After that, it makes sense to expect that next episode, their group will become a real team around him, not just noisy background. Here the scheme is described very clearly. These men use children for theft, shootings, and the dirty work that keeps everything running. So judging by this scene, the story now has a clear outside enemy, and that enemy is unlikely to back off after one failed attempt. When Iskender says the city is not ownerless and they will handle it themselves, his grief turns into public action. So in the next episode, people may start following him before he himself is ready to accept being the man they already see him as. The message to Seraph says directly that nothing is over, and now it is his turn. With all the noise around cameras and confusion, this feels like the setup for the next strike, and his comic line could very suddenly turn dangerous in the next episode. In the hideout, they stress one especially ugly detail. These men are hiding behind very small children. Because of that, the most logical expectation next is that if Iskender goes after them again, he will have to save the children first, and only then break the gang itself. And then comes the most alarming line. Furkan has already been sent to shoot someone. After a line like that, the next episode will almost certainly begin as a race against time, because the threat here is not being prepared anymore. It is already being carried out. Gonul accurately points out that the past keeps dragging Iskender back into danger, and that is why he needs to be pulled away even briefly. But because of that, the warm plan from friends could instantly shatter in the next episode against a new, real attack. The boss outside hears only one name as the obstacle, and gives a short order to get rid of Iskender. This is the clearest bridge into the next episode. The attack now no longer looks random, but like the first deliberate move from a new side. Iskender even freezes when they mention his birthday, and Cennet simply assigns him a new one. That domestic reset sits right beside violence, so the next episode will likely raise the question of who he is supposed to live as after everything that has happened. Right in the middle of the celebration, the lawyer steps in and drags the story back to Haldun's will. So the next episode will likely revolve not only around the attack, but also around the decision Iskender has already made behind everyone else's backs. It turns out he directed Haldun's inheritance toward the orphanage and its opening, and he wanted to keep it as a surprise. After a move like that, it makes sense to expect that his real answer to the Mafia crown will now collide head-on with those who expected something very different. Cennet is shaken not by the amount, but by the fact that he kept such a decision silent at all. So the family line will most likely keep running into the same problem next episode. Iskender hides both good things and deadly risks until the very last second. The wrecked room and the blood everywhere instantly drag the tone from celebration into catastrophe. After an image like that, the next episode will almost certainly push hard on the panic of the people close to him, and that panic will trigger rash mistakes and hurried decisions. Witnesses say Iskender was dragged toward the warehouse, and he was already covered in blood. That hints that the continuation will not slip into hidden intrigue, but stay brutal and direct. Rescue or revenge will begin right from the place where he was taken. The whole crowd is already running with one thought only. They have to save Iskender. With that energy, the next episode can easily place him at the center of the entire neighborhood at once, even if he himself is still not ready to take on that role. The line that he has been shot, even if it turns out false, lands like an almost finished ending. Even after he survives, that rumor itself could explode through everyone next episode and push someone to strike first without checking the truth. Cennet breaks down precisely at the thought that she had lost Camille again. That slip is too exact to disappear. So next episode, the memory line and the old identity will very likely move to the front alongside the physical conflict. The boy says sorry uncle had already sent him to protect Iskender because he has too many enemies. That means next episode the people close to him will already switch into defense mode, and even among his own, he will have less freedom than before. The cousins are no longer arguing about the past, and directly promise that from now on, they will do everything together. After that, it makes sense to expect that the next episode will gather not alone Iskender, but a tight family circle around him, and that circle will also step into the conflict. The final hook is the strongest one. He says he has not remembered everything, but he has remembered them and his mother. So the most likely picture for the next episode looks like this. Enemies and Haldun's inheritance press on him from outside, while the return of Camille rises inside.